All right, so how do you go ahead and stop worrying and overthinking things with your ex? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Hey there, it's Clay with modernlove.life. You got it. This video is about how we can stop overthinking and worrying about things with our ex. I know that it's really super common. I've been there myself as well too. I remember before I had my first breakup, I knew that they were these big things because, you of course see stuff on TV and you hear things from friends and stuff like that. It wasn't until I actually had the experience of being dumped for the very first time by my big ex that I really realized how bad it could be. I could barely focus. I could barely get through the day in one piece. I just couldn't stop thinking about her. I couldn't stop thinking about everything that I'd lost, everything that went wrong. I couldn't stop thinking about, this guy that she told me that she was interested in, all that sort of stuff. What I want to talk about now is how we can stop worrying and overthinking about our ex. And there's really a couple things that we can focus on when it comes to this. Number one is we want to be careful about how we're filling in the gaps. With anything, there are going to be gaps that we experience. We're not going to always know why they said something, why they did something, why they didn't say something, why they didn't do something. We're not going to always know these things, and we want to be careful about that because our mind wants to make meaning out of these sorts of things. So it's going to say like, okay, I texted her or I texted him and he didn't text back or she didn't text back. Why not? That's the gap. Now our mind might jump in and say, oh, it's because, she doesn't care, or it's because he's met someone else, or it's because, I'm not worthy of love, or something like that, right? And we've got to be careful about this because we don't necessarily know these things. We don't know if the reason that they're not texting you back is because they've moved on and they've met someone else, or something like that. So we want to be careful because many times we're going to fill in these unknowns. We're going to fill in these gaps in our experience with our own fears, our own insecurities, our own anxieties, our own limiting beliefs, our own issues that we've had with our parents growing up. Oh, you're not worthy of love. You're always going to be last. Whatever issues you might have. I don't know. We all have our own issues, right? So we got to be careful about those gaps, and we want to, as much as we possibly can, notice them, first of all, so that you can avoid filling them in. And then instead of just filling them in with our own, disaster conclusions, our own fears, our own worst case scenarios, etc., what we want to do is we want to just say, okay, you know what? I don't know why she didn't text me back. And if it helps, you could say, sure, it might be possible that she didn't text me back because she doesn't care anymore. But it could also be possible that, maybe she's having a hard time with this too. Maybe she's waiting for me to text her again. Maybe she read about this thing called the no contact rule and she's trying it out. She says she saw on the internet she's supposed to do this. Maybe her friends, deleted my number. And it just entertains some other possible outcomes there. You don't necessarily know. Even if you are completely certain, even if you know your ex inside and out and you absolutely know that they're doing this to hurt you, you don't 100% know. That's where we are going to go with our next thing, which is about your way of being. And I'm going to tell you more about this whole not knowing thing later. So please stay tuned. I have an important story about all of this that could really be a nice little pep talk for you. The next thing I want to talk about is your way of being. When you're going through a breakup, when you have all these concerns and worries and all this sort of stuff on your mind, it's easy to get pulled into a way of being that is that of panic, of fear, of insecurity, of lack, of I'm not enough. But what I want you to do is I want you to intentionally realign yourself with a way of being of something that you do want to experience. I've talked about this before on this channel. I've started talking about it more as I've started to feel more and more comfortable talking about maybe more the spiritual side of things. But we want to be mindful about how we're showing up in our life with other people or just in our day-to-day experience in general. Because if you bring lack and fear into your life, that will be reflected back to you. If you bring inadequacy into your life, that'll be reflected back to you. If you bring I'm not enough into your day-to-day life, that will be reflected back to you. You'll have experiences that reaffirm this to you. You know, is it any wonder that I had issues of worthiness and whether or not I'm good enough? And every time my big ex broke up with me, she would go and get into some sort of rebound relationship. Is it any wonder that that would happen, that I would have some sort of experience where, hey, Clay, you're not good enough, was reflected back to me? Instead, what you want to do is you want to really work on your way of being. You want to pull yourself into alignment with what you want. You want to say, okay, I'm not interested in feeling not good enough. I'm not interested in lack. I'm not interested in all of this. What I do want is to feel loved and accepted for who I am. What I do want is to feel whole and complete. What I do want is to feel grounded. What I do want is to trust myself to handle no matter what happens. And if you can start to feel that and bring it into your day-to-day experience, whether or not you're interacting with your ex, whether you're just going about your normal day, doing whatever you do, going to school, going to work, carry that way of being with you and you'll be in a much better place, okay? And so, like I said before, you're never gonna know exactly what's going on. Here's a quick story. Me and my big ex, you know, we had one of our breakups and we had this big falling out, and I was pretty sure I'd never talk to her again. I kind of wanted to talk to her. I wanted her to reach out to me and, you know, apologize for some things that she said to me and some things that she did. But I also had been hearing about this no contact business, and so I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. You know, there I was just going day after day after day, not talking to her, wondering what was going to happen. I was going week after week, not hearing from her, not knowing what she was going through, and just assuming, okay, well, you know, she would have messaged me by now if she cared. She would have gotten in touch with me if she cared. She would have reached out to me and said something if she cared. And that's what I thought. That's what I believed. And this whole time, that's what I was absolutely certain of. But there was this entire experience that was happening beneath the surface that I was not clued into, that was completely invisible to me. A couple weeks after we had stopped talking to one another, I was, you know, going through this very difficult process of letting go, of learning how to deal with things on my own and everything. And then I was checking my email one day, and there was an email from her. It just said something to the effect of, hey, I'm really tired of this game that we're playing. I can't stand not knowing what you're up to. I miss you. I just want to hear your voice. You know, things like that. And up until the very moment that I got that email, I was absolutely convinced that she just didn't care about me. So there can be things that are going on beneath the surface that are totally invisible to you. Just because you're not seeing something right there in front of you, just because you're not seeing your ex saying, hey, this is really hard for me, I miss you, I don't know what to do, I read about this thing called no contact, I'm trying it out, just because you don't know what their motives or what their day-to-day experience is, it doesn't mean that they're not going through something. It doesn't mean that they're not having their own struggles and challenges along the way too. We've talked a lot about mindset in this video, so if you do want to learn more about that, I'd really strongly recommend you go to modernlove.life/EF. That's modernlove.life/E as in emotional, F as in freedom, for our course called Emotional Freedom. You can also find a link for it down below in the description box for this video. But it does help you out with this whole business of filling in the gaps. It does help you out to stop worrying and overthinking and overanalyzing things with your ex. It does help to get you in a better emotional place where you can bring the best of yourself, you know, to your interactions and to your relationships. You know, we've talked in previous videos about the whole holiday expectation effect and all that sort of stuff. And you know, yeah, that's happening. This can also help you with that as well too. So it's actually like a really great time of year to go through emotional freedom. Of course, you know, I don't think there's ever a bad time of year. So if you're watching this in the middle of summer or something like that, then it's probably going to be helpful for you as well too. But if you are watching this when I publish it, then it's probably going to be especially helpful for you. So anyway, check out modernlove.life/EF. And with that being said, take care, and I'll talk to you next time.